Beneath the surface of global politics, scientific discovery, and religious ritual, something ancient is stirring. Quietly, methodically, the world's most powerful institutions appear to be aligning toward a singular, hidden agenda, one not openly declared, but felt in the shifting winds of culture, technology, and belief. It is called by many names, whispered in dark corners and sealed documents. But among those who see its full shape, it is known simply as the Nephilim Protocol. According to ancient texts, both biblical and apocryphal, the Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, hybrids of divine and human blood, who walked the earth in a time before the Great Flood. They were giants, both in stature and in spiritual significance, beings of immense power whose existence threatened the balance between heaven and earth. Most traditions claim they were wiped out in divine judgment, but others, more obscure, more unsettling, suggest they were not destroyed, only hidden, preserved, protected, awaiting their return. And today there are signs that return may be near. From the Vatican's secret archives to the subterranean vaults of the Smithsonian Institution, stories are emerging. Stories of recovered bones too large for ordinary humans, of ancient tablets describing sky beings who ruled before the kings of men, of classified expeditions to remote mountain ranges and deserts where ruins far older than known history lie buried. These stories, once confined to fringe circles, are now intersecting with something far more powerful: elite interest. Why have members of royal families, tech billionaires, and high-level political operatives begun acquiring land in regions historically linked to Nephilim activity? The mountains of Ararat, the plains of Bashan, or the frozen chambers of Antarctica? Why are governments sponsoring deep earth and deep space exploration under the guise of climate research or asteroid defense when internal documents hint at a very different concern: ancient entities of non-human origin? More disturbingly, why are modern geneticists, particularly those affiliated with DARPA, the World Economic Forum, and private biotech firms, conducting research on reactivated ancestral DNA, claiming that hidden codes within our genome might hold the key to unlocking pre-Adamic potential? What exactly are they trying to awaken? Some believe that the Nephilim were not just physical beings, but spiritual hybrids, fusions of flesh and celestial essence. If so, then to recreate them, or reintroduce them, would require not only advanced genetics, but also ritual knowledge long suppressed. Enter the occult alliances. There are whispers that esoteric groups, such as revived Templar orders and Eastern mystery schools, have been in communication with elite scientific organizations offering ancient blueprints for reanimation, not of corpses, but of dormant bloodlines. Could this be the real reason behind the modern obsession with ancestry testing and global DNA databases? To identify carriers of ancient blood, to find those whose genes might still echo with the resonance of the giants? Simultaneously, we see the public being prepared, subtly but consistently, through media, entertainment, and academic revisionism. Myths of giants, once dismissed as fantasy, are now reclassified as symbolic truth. Hollywood floods the screen with titanic beings from other realms. Museums quietly remove or reinterpret artifacts that defy mainstream chronology. Even children's textbooks begin to hint at pre-human civilizations and visitors from above. But this is only the surface layer. According to certain leaked documents attributed to a defector from a European intelligence agency, there exists a classified international program known internally as the Nephilim Protocol. Its stated goal: to prepare infrastructure, narrative, and spiritual acclamation for the re-emergence of beings of superior origin. The protocol, supposedly ratified in secret by representatives from the Vatican, the United Nations, and unnamed private councils, outlines a multi-phase plan involving mass psychological conditioning, the gradual introduction of giant iconography into urban design, and the eventual public acknowledgement of pre-human legacy species. The same defector claims that in isolated regions, including restricted zones in the Middle East, Central Asia, and Antarctica, containment zones have been established around what are described as biosuspended colossi. These are not skeletons. These are not fossils. These are entities in stasis, sleeping, preserved, and watched. And then comes the most disturbing layer of all, the spiritual dimension. Many believe that the return of the Nephilim is not merely a biological event, but a cosmic ritual, a deliberate inversion of divine order, preparing the way for what ancient texts call the abomination of desolation. In this view, the giants are not just returning, they are to be enthroned. Some theologians point to the Book of Revelation's cryptic references to hybrid beasts, false prophets, and the image that speaks as signs that a Nephilim king, a being of immense charisma and terrifying presence, will rise to lead humanity into a new golden age. But this age will not be of peace and love. It will be of control, deception, and worship, directed at the ancient adversaries of heaven. In elite circles, particularly among certain transhumanist visionaries, there is an open admiration for the Nephilim. They are viewed not as threats but as models, beings who transcended human limitation and defied the divine hierarchy. The New World Order they envision does not fear the return of the giants, it welcomes it. They see in the Nephilim the prototype of a new humanity, enhanced, unbound, and godlike. Is this why we see such urgency in the push for genetic editing, cybernetic integration, and the uploading of consciousness into synthetic vessels? Are the elite attempting not only to summon the Nephilim, but to become them? As these questions swirl in the shadows, one thing becomes clear. The veil is thinning. What was once myth is fast becoming agenda. The floodgates of forgotten knowledge are creaking open, and the giants, whether literal or symbolic, are beginning to rise. This is only the beginning of the mystery. The second part of this story will delve deeper into the hidden alliances, the suppressed discoveries, and the prophetic consequences of a world poised to welcome back its ancient rulers. But for now, ask yourself, why are the powerful so obsessed with giants? And what happens when the old blood begins to stir again? If the Nephilim Protocol is real, and all evidence seems to suggest it is, then we must begin to accept a horrifying truth, that world events, scientific breakthroughs, and even spiritual awakenings are being orchestrated not randomly but systematically in service of a higher and ancient agenda. And while the world's eyes are fixed on wars, inflation, elections, and technology, those behind the veil are quietly preparing to open the gates that were sealed millennia ago. The second phase of the protocol is known among insiders by the codename Initiatio Magnus, the Great Initiation. It is a moment the architects of the New Order believe will usher in not only a physical return of the Nephilim bloodline, but the spiritual conditioning of humanity to accept and even worship their emergence. Let us begin with what is known about these containment zones. According to military and intelligence leaks, certain excavation sites, long thought to be inactive or archaeological, are in fact highly secure environments under multinational supervision. In Siberia, remote areas of Iran, Iraq, and especially Antarctica, deep caverns house what have been called biological anomalies in cryogenic suspension. These anomalies match ancient descriptions of the Nephilim, over 3 meters tall, elongated skulls, hyperdense bone structure, and internal organs unlike those found in Homo sapiens. What's more disturbing than their discovery is their condition. They are not dead. Classified reports from 2008, later leaked by a retired Australian officer, describe signs of metabolic dormancy, faint brainwave patterns, measurable shifts in temperature, and unexplained electromagnetic disturbances localized around these entities. The term used by the operatives was pre-awakening oscillation. This isn't archaeology, it's containment. And while the military shields these zones from public view, cultural institutions play a different role: narrative management. The steady trickle of ancient giant-themed content, from films and series to museum exhibits and academic debates, is no coincidence. We are being acclimated. We are being softened to an idea that, once unthinkable, will soon be introduced as historical truth. Parallel to this is a rapid advancement in genome sequencing and ancestral activation technology. What was once the domain of fringe science is now entering mainstream biotech. CRISPR-based companies are exploring genes that trigger extraordinary bone growth, neuroplasticity, and resistance to aging, all traits associated with Nephilim legends. But it goes further. Within some elite biomedical circles, there are rumors of experiments combining human embryos with synthetic or retrieved genetic material of unknown origin. These programs, conducted in private labs and unregulated regions, seek not only to replicate the traits of the Nephilim, but to host their return, not in old bodies, but new vessels. This would align with the disturbing claims of spiritual transfer, the belief held by ancient occult sects that certain disembodied entities, often referred to as watchers or Rephaim, can inhabit compatible genetic hosts if the frequency, ritual, and bloodline conditions are met. In other words, modern science is building bodies, and ancient forces are waiting to enter. And here the Vatican returns to the spotlight. Despite its public role as a guardian of spiritual truth, the Vatican maintains one of the most sophisticated observatories in the world, the Lucifer telescope on Mount Graham in Arizona, run in partnership with Jesuit astronomers. Officially, it monitors celestial phenomena. Unofficially, it is believed to track specific cosmic alignments tied to Nephilim prophecy. Internal memos leaked from the Vatican's Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith speak of a moment of celestial convergence tied to the sons of old and the return of the image of the mighty. Some theologians suggest this refers to a time when the veils between dimensions will thin, allowing ancient intelligences to pass into the material world once more. But these entities are not coming as invaders. They are being invited. Political movements in the West are increasingly mirroring ancient structures: a priestly elite, the technocrats, sacred texts, algorithms, and temples' data centers. In China, state-backed AI systems are now integrated with religious frameworks, guiding moral behavior. In the West, transhumanist leaders speak openly of becoming gods through genetic enhancement and synthetic immortality. This is not evolution. This is initiation into a different order, one not rooted in the divine creator, but in the rebellion of the ancient ones. And just as the Nephilim rose in the days of Noah to corrupt the bloodline of man and disrupt the divine image, so too will their return aim to rewrite the very nature of the soul. The final phase of the Nephilim Protocol, some believe, involves the enthronement of a hybrid leader, a global figure who will unite science, politics, and religion under a banner of peace, progress, and divine wisdom. But this wisdom will be false, it will be seductive, and it will carry within it the genetic and spiritual essence of the ancient giants, the very enemies of heaven. Is this the Antichrist, or is he merely a vessel? One theory suggests that the Nephilim king, long slumbering, now awakening, will rise not through war but through revelation. Disclosures will be made, discoveries announced. The world will be told, we were wrong. History was different. You are more than human, and it's time to become what you were meant to be. The new religion will not require faith, it will offer proof. Artifacts, genetic evidence, lost teachings, and even miracles performed through technology will sway billions. And those who resist, those who cling to the old ways, to the ancient God, will be labeled as enemies of human evolution. And yet the ancient scriptures warned us. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but shall not cleave one to another. And all the world wondered after the beast. The protocol is not future speculation, it is unfolding now. So we must ask ourselves, why are governments obsessed with ancient DNA? Why are global institutions so desperate to redefine humanity? And what hidden power is truly orchestrating this return from behind the veil? As the giants rise again, in blood, in culture, and in spirit, the world will stand at a crossroads, worship the image of the hybrid God, or resist with the truth of the Creator. One thing is certain, the past is not dead. The bloodline never vanished, and the giants are awakening.